Overthinking is stopping you from doing what you already know you should do, finishing a song, going to the gym, or reaching out to people. Instead, you think, and you think, and you think, until you do nothing. And I still struggle with this myself. So in this video, I'll show you how I deal with overthinking and how you can finally take action again. Hey everyone, Mark here. Welcome back to another episode of Mindset of a Musician. Today we're talking about the trap of overthinking and how it can quietly kill your creativity, your growth, and your consistency. And this doesn't just apply to music, it affects every area of life. So let's start by understanding the root of overthinking. There's always a root to every problem. And when it comes to overthinking, that root can look very different. It can be insecurity and self-doubt, perfectionism, fear of making the wrong decisions, or even anxiety. Whatever it is, the first step is to become aware of it. So let's break it down. Insecurities often come from a lack of self-confidence. A simple example would be being afraid to sing in front of others. So that fear can lead you to overthink every situation where you might be judged, like going to jam sessions, or singing in front of an audience, or even going to singing lessons. You're overthinking it until you don't do it at all. Perfectionism is essentially overthinking in disguise. Think about an artist working on a song. She overthinks every detail, the recording, the sounds, the arrangement, and the mix. But in the end, it never gets released because it's never perfect. Another big one is the fear of making the wrong choice. Let's say you're thinking about moving to another city because of the music scene there. Of course, there are many things to consider, but at some point you have to decide. And if you overthink it for too long, you'll never make the move. And lastly, anxiety. When your mind is constantly focused on the future, money, stability, worst case scenarios, you become hyper vigilant of everything that could go wrong. And that leads to constant overthinking, which often results in paralysis. So now that we understand where overthinking comes from, let's talk about what it actually does to your creativity and your growth. Creativity is not perfect, but overthinking wants it to be. And that's the problem. Because if everything has to be perfect, you never start. You never release that song. You never go to that jam session. And you never reach out or call the club or send that message or post that reel. Because you don't want to fail. But without failure, there's no growth, hence no success. So perfection becomes procrastination. To be creative, we need to enter a state of mind wandering. And that usually happens during simple activities like going for a walk, taking a shower, or doing routine tasks. And these moments don't require full focus. But they're also not distracting, like scrolling on the phone or watching TV. And some might call that boring, but it is. But it's the nurturing ground for creativity. And that is where ideas are born. So here's the truth. We're not always inspired. So you have two options. You either create when inspiration hits, or you treat songwriting like a skill, something you can train. And if you want to become a better songwriter, you have to write even when you don't feel like it. And that's where overthinking gets in the way. Because instead of writing, you start judging, analyzing, and doubting. And suddenly, you're not creating anymore. Julia Cameron has a great exercise called morning pages in her book, The Artist's Way. And that is writing 2 to 3 pages of longhand, pure brain dump every morning. No structure, no pressure, no perfection, just writing. And I struggled with this a lot at first because I wanted to write great songs, but that's exactly the trap. You have to commit to writing anyway, no matter what your inner critic says. because otherwise your perfectionism becomes procrastination. And it's not just creativity, it kills your growth too. Let's say you want to improve on your instrument and you go on YouTube trying to find a lesson. And suddenly you find yourself watching dozens of videos trying to find the perfect one, but in the end, you didn't practice at all. Same with fitness. You want to go for a run, you debate with yourself, you hesitate, and then you skip it. So instead of taking action, you stay stuck in your thoughts. And that leads us to the next step, which is how to break out of overthinking and actually start making decisions. Conscious thinking is often described as problem solving. And solving a problem means making a decision. What to eat, what to wear, what to do with your time, and what to buy. Every single day we make hundreds of decisions, and every decision has consequences, good or bad. What I've experienced in my own life is this. I don't struggle with making decisions. I struggle with overthinking the unimportant ones. So for example, when I want to buy a new piece of gear, I can spend hours researching, watching videos, reading forums, comparing options, trying to make the perfect decision. But during that time, I'm not playing guitar and I'm not actually testing the gear. So how do we fix that? Well, there are 3 ways how to avoid this trap. And that is train your decision muscle, automate your routines, and develop a just do it mentality. So let's get into details. This is one of the most practical tools. For small everyday decisions, give yourself 1 minute to decide what to wear, what to order at the restaurant, anything. Decide, move on, no overthinking. Important decisions are different, of course, but even there, give yourself a time limit because otherwise you'll overthink them too. And for purchases, I personally use a different rule. I wait 48 hours to 30 days, depending on the money, because that will help me to avoid buying things that I don't really need. So the goal is simple. Stop wasting time for decisions that don't matter. Yes, you'll make wrong decisions sometimes, but you'll gain something much more valuable, and that is time. Time for creativity, time for growth, and time for relationships. And that is the most valuable asset we have. It's our lifetime. So try this for 14 days and see what happens. If something becomes a habit, you stop overthinking it. So instead of asking yourself every day, should I write today or not? Make it a rule. I write every day for 10 minutes at least for the next 30 days. No decision needed. And for everything else, don't think, act. I know this sounds simple, and I know it's hard, but trust me, every action counts. 1 word, 1 sentence, 1 push-up, 1 minute of practice. And over time, it gets easier. And eventually, you become the kind of person who doesn't hesitate anymore. You just do it. And that's where real progress begins. So now let's talk about the final step, which is how to fully overcome overthinking. To overcome overthinking, you have to let go of self-doubt and insecurities. And more importantly, you have to shift your mindset from an overthinker to a decision maker. And for me, that started with self-reflection. Understanding where my thoughts came from. And letting go of constant comparison, using tools like journaling and meditation to create distance from my thoughts. And if you want to dive deeper into that, I have a whole video about comparison, self-doubt. I'll link it up here. So here's the key. You don't overcome overthinking by thinking more. You overcome it by acting. And that's where everything from the last chapter comes in. Training your decision muscle, automating your routines and habits, and building a just do it mentality. Because in the end, overthinking is avoiding action. And the moment you start acting, even imperfectly, you break the cycle. So now let me know in the comments if you're an overthinker and how you deal with it. And if you want to dive deeper into topics like this, feel free to join me in my Mindset Monday newsletter. Link is in the description. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you got something out of this video. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next one.